Hey guys, I'm going to take you through everything I read in September and October, so my September and October reading wrap up. I was going to start this video by saying that I am a fantasy, I read fantasy and romance and fiction, I just read everything, murder mystery, whatever, except for nonfiction. I don't like that. And I was gonna say oh, I haven't really been in that mood, but that's literally all I read. I'm gonna go in order, so if I look at my phone at all, it's just because I'm looking at the order. But I'm gonna start with this series. I read 8-book series. You might know what it is because I said 8 books, but I read the Throne of Glass series. I started with Assassin's Blade. Some people say to read it first, some people say to read it fourth, whatever. If you haven't read this by now, you probably know what it is. Okay, this is about Selena, and it's kind of like the backstory to Throne of Glass and the rest of the series. I started reading this because I've read ACOTAR, I've read Crescent City, but I needed to read Throne of Glass because of all of the arcs and stuff that are happening. ACOTAR characters are gonna be in the next Crescent City book, and it's just a mess. So I was like, you know what, I probably need to read these just in case, all these characters get thrown in. So I started with this, then I read Throne of Glass. I read all of these in September plus more, but it just kind of follows Selena and Aelin and Rowan, and it's found family, it's magic, battle. The battle scenes in some of these are so good. Okay, I'm not even gonna say much about it because I don't if I start talking about it, I'm gonna give spoilers, but Airfire, everything like that. I think I still like ACOTAR better. Don't hate me. I think it's just because I like the found family in ACOTAR better. Don't get me wrong, I love all of these, but some characters piss me off. Sorry, I don't like Kale, whatever the fuck his name is. Don't like him. Sorry if you're a stan. This book, I get why we needed this book, but why did we really need this book? I know my favorite scene is in this one. It's in the sort of the beginning. If you've read it, you know. But anyways, that's all I'm gonna get into about that. I'm just gonna say that I read all of these. Okay, since September is start of the fall season, I wanted to read a sort of fall book. And I've already kind of cycled through a bunch of dark academia last year. I read The Secret History, I read Atlas 6, I read Ninth House, everything like that. So this new, everybody was talking about this on TikTok, and it's Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. And it's about, I don't even remember the characters' names, I'm sorry. It's about Kit and Iris. They're workplace rivals, and there's this kind of magical war, sort of magical war going on between two deities, two gods that people have opposing views on. They are editors or writers. Everybody liked it. I did not. I'm sorry. I gave this I normally don't rate my books, but I would give this 1 star. I'm sorry. I didn't like it. Yeah, I just didn't like it. Didn't really connect to the characters. They were fine. The writing was good. I did like the writing. I would give it the only star it gets is because of the writing. I love how she writes, but I did not like the story. Don't come for me. The next book I read was Jennifer Lynn Barnes, The Brothers Hawthorne. I read the Inheritance Game series. Sorry, I'm looking up there because that's where they are. They're on my shelf up there. But the Inheritance Game series was so good. It is YA, which I don't normally lean towards, but I love the series. I love the mystery. I was trying to solve it. Too dumb. I don't think I like this as much as the Inheritance Games. Maybe it was because of the perspectives. I liked having the guys' perspectives. The other 3 books are in Avery's perspective, and she's kind of thrown into the Hawthorne world because she gets an inheritance from the 4 brothers' grandfather, and they don't know why. So that's that whole thing. I liked Jameson's storyline in this. Grayson's was mid. Maybe I'm just biased towards Jameson because I learned to like him more. Like in the whole Inheritance Game series, Grayson and Jameson kind of had like a love angle thing with Avery. There's two different storylines. Kind of wish they were all in on it together. I did just watch another reading wrap up. I think it was Sarah. She was talking about how there's another book after this and how the end of this was like a good segue into that, and I do agree with that if there is going to be another book. After The Brothers Hawthorne, I read The Binding by Bridget Collins. I really liked this book. It's about Emmett Farmer, and he goes to be a binder's apprentice. In this book, books are like bad, I guess, and instead of being just stories, they're people's memories. So people's memories get binded into books by people who are binders, which that's their profession. There's also novels in this book, which is what a normal book would be. This is so confusing. Like, a novel is a story in this, but a book is a memory. Only certain people can be binders, and he is like one of those certain people, and it just follows him trying to figure out how to be a binder and him trying to find his own memories, because from the beginning of the book he's like ill, but his illness is that he was binded, like he had a memory taken away. And normally people don't remember, but he remembered. I really love Bridget Collins' writing. I read another one of her books, The Betrayals, like hardcore COVID time, and I really liked that book. It was kind of confusing at times, but I like that. Like, I know some people don't like to be confused, but I love being confused by books, if that makes sense. I would give this a solid 4 out of 5 stars because I really like the writing. I really liked the storyline. People have done the like books are bad before, but I've never read something like this. And then also the like little tiny romance, and this is really cute. I think that was the last thing I read in September. Yeah, in September I read 8, 9, 10, 11 books. October was slower, but I think that's because I was in school and I was kind of reading school books too. One of the books I will say I read was Passing by Nella Larson for my AP Lit class, and I really did like that book. Next book I read was the first book of October, and I was kind of, after The Binding, which wasn't really a real romance, I would say, I was just kind of like, I need something light I can like sit down and read in like 2 hours, and so I reread The Score by Elle Kennedy. I used to think I didn't like the found family trope, but then when I realized how many found family books I have, I was like, wait, that's literally one of my favorites. This follows Dean and Allie, you know, hockey romance. It's kind of like reluctant. Well, the girl's reluctant, and the guy is like, he really wants her. That's all I'm gonna say. It's fast paced. It's cute. Love the friendships in this. Like, Elle Kennedy writes some of the best found family and like friendship. Like, the friendship scenes are so nice. All the hockey scenes, like, ugh, I just love it. Next book I read was Red Rising by Pierce Brown. It is fantasy slash dystopian slash sci-fi. It follows a color hierarchy, kind of like The Darkest Minds. I read that when I was in middle school, I think. I remember watching the movie and wishing they had made more, but it follows Darrow, who is red, and red is at the bottom of the hierarchy. Golds are at the top of the hierarchy with like just a bunch of colors in between, and they're based on like jobs, or your mind is fit for certain things. Like yellows are doctors, I think the greens are like the psychologists and stuff, the pinks are like sex workers basically, obsidians are like really strong, they're military, golds are at the top, silvers, I can't remember what silvers do, grays are like police, stuff like that. Darrow is a red, and he's basically a slave. He works underneath Mars. In this series, all the planets have been like inhabited and they're livable and stuff like that, but the Reds don't know that because they're stuck toiling underneath Mars mining for helium-3, which make all of the ecosystems on all of the planets. Darrow gets recruited by this group of Reds who's trying to overthrow the Golds, or overthrow the system that makes them slaves. This was so good. It gave Hunger Games and Maze Runner. There's a gauntlet where there's teams and they have to fight each other, and it was just so good. And this was written by a man. I'm sorry, but I'm sorry I'm biased up against men sometimes, but this was written by a man and it was so good. So thank you, Pierce Brown. After that, I have the rest of the Red Rising series, but I didn't go directly to that. After reading the score, I was thinking about like the other Elle Kennedy books. I had recently reread The Deal, I think in August. My favorite, at least I think, my favorite Elle Kennedy book from like the whole off-campus Briar U is The Risk. So it follows Brenna and Jake, and the reason I think I love this book so much is because I love me some Jake Connolly. Again, hockey romance. It's forbidden enemies to lovers. It's not really enemies because they don't have a reason to hate each other other than they're on opposing teams, but Jake plays for Harvard and Brenna is the daughter of Briar's coach. Obviously they shouldn't be together. That's also one of my favorite tropes. Love enemies to lovers, love forbidden, like, oh, you can't do that, except for don't love age gap. I love Jake Connolly. I loved how I kind of got to see a different vibe from Briar. Like, there was still stuff from off-campus. Characters from off-campus were mentioned. Summer, who's Dean DeLaurentis's sister, is Brenna's like best friend and stuff like that. Also fake boyfriend, fake dating. She's just unapologetic. I love reading that stuff. I cannot stand cringy, like this is cringy at times, but I cannot stand cringy characters. Like, I don't like reading something and being like, why the fuck would you ever say that? And she just doesn't do that. I love this book. The last two books I read in October were Golden Sun and Morning Star, which is the last two books in the Red Rising trilogy. There are books after it, which is like years in the future, and I have those books, but I'm not reading them yet. Golden Sun was the next book. Really good too. Like, it's just, I don't want to spoil things, but I don't know how to, I really don't understand how YouTubers or booktubers like give reviews without spoiling stuff, because I could just talk about it forever. In Red Rising, he won the like gauntlet thing, and then he became a lancer for a tyrant basically, and he did that so that he could like get in the inside, in like the inside of the politics and stuff, and kind of like get the golds pitted against each other so he could ruin them. I don't really know, but in this he's now embedded in the gold class. He's able to like make little disruptions with allies he's made from the games that he played. You really just have to read it. It's so good. It's so good. And then last book I read was Morning Star, which finishes it off, kind of puts a new ruler into place at the very end. Right here, like right here scared the, even just like here, the last like 50 pages were terrifying. Like, I was paralyzed with fear. And these tabs I have, normally I don't tab books, sometimes I underline stuff. I really should. There's one character in these books and his name's Severo. If you know, you know. He's so goddamn funny, and these, like, I couldn't stop laughing, so I just had to tab them so I could read them again later. But everything kind of gets put into place. All of his allies come together. He gets betrayed. He really gets betrayed here. He gets murdered-ish. It's just a lot, and I loved it. And you just listened to me ramble for so long, and I don't think I gave you anything of substance, but that was the last thing I read in October. I currently started a new book. Won't say what it is because I'll probably do a November reading wrap up or something like that. I hope you enjoyed. I really had fun. I feel like I'm getting more used to the camera now. That's all I have for all these books. How many books was that? I said I read what, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 books plus passing, so 17. I have no life. Okay, see you guys in the next video.